Yeah, there's one person group I look down on, it's better. Well, if they truly love their country, they would have died for it.
Five mics, gentlemen.
Yeah. You sound like some politician I heard. Well, I'll tell you what, I listened to the debate Wednesday night, and then I had to turn it
Hi,
off.
Ryan.
It was so ugly that you just wanted to throw it.
I haven't watched it. I see excerpts of it. And I can't stand people that talk over each other. I can't stand it.
We'll see how that works today. Let's call the meeting to order. Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance. Joanne, would you lead us in the pledge, please? Allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. First item on the agenda, approval of the minutes. The minutes have been circulated, or at least a draft of them. Are there any questions? I would move to approve the minutes.
I'll second that.
Any discussion, concerns, changes regarding our minutes as they've been drafted? All in favor of the minutes as generated? Aye. Any opposed?
And I will say we started posting minutes, so all of them in the past are on there, so these will be put in on the line as well in the next couple of days.
Is there any idea how long we're going to keep them online? Doesn't really matter in a way, does it?
It doesn't.
Next item on the agenda, Benton Community School Corporation public question. Julie, would you update us on what that is about?
Yeah, this is the main reason we have the meeting today, is just that the board needs to know that Benton Community School Corporation has certified a public question to be added to the ballots, and we are just to make arrangements for that referendum. What that says is that for the 8 calendar years immediately following the holding of the referendum, shall Benton Community School Corporation impose a property tax rate that does not exceed 31 cents on each $100 of assessed valuation, and that is in addition to all other property taxes imposed by the school corporation for the purpose of retaining teachers and support staff, maintaining class sizes in academic, agricultural, vocational, and fine arts programs, and enhancing student safety and security.
Dress code.
So that's the public question.
And so they certify that to you, is that correct?
Yes.
All right. And I would, well, it's our job to put it on the ballot. And so I would move to acknowledge that we've received the public question and it will be placed on the ballot.
Second.
Any discussion regarding that?
I'm going to go ahead and vote. I want to make a comment on it.
Okay.
And particularly Julie out there, I think there's some roads on one side they're in Benton School Corporation, on the other side they're not. And so we need to make sure all voting centers, even though that's sort of Shelby Township, that people have that information, because we might get some.
And we'll have a vote center at Failure Foods is right out there.
Yeah. But I mean, some of them are going to vote wherever, and it's just, that doesn't come up every time, so I wanted to make sure there's an alert on that.
Yes.
Any other questions, issues, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries. Let's see, notice of death of an office holder.
Whoops, you missed one.
I did it?
Policy.
Oh, excuse me. Policy, would you update us on what that is about?
Okay, so we're updating a policy for, this is data that is retrieved from the voter registration system. And in order to get that, they already have to fill out a VRG 24. So we now have, and Doug Masson helped us write this, the policy for how we will handle that. We will be redacting certain information such as date of birth, gender, telephone numbers, and some other things. It's the same thing that the Indiana Election Division also must redact from theirs when they hand this information out. and there's a fee applied to it which states that it's $1 per precinct. And then if they do want photocopies, though, they will be $1 a precinct plus the county. It will follow the county policy, with the exception that on election day, that people who, such as like the Democratic Party or the Republican Party, anybody who's collecting data to get out the vote purposes, that information will be free and available when we're able to get it out on election day.
What do you mean when we're able?
We're very busy, and we can't, like last year, we were requested by the Democratic Party to put it out every 2 hours. I'm not at the computer every 2 hours, so we can't get it out every 2 hours. But if I'm at the computer and can get to it, I can send that info out. From what I understand, though, there is new machines, if we get in the future, that can automatically do it, so.
All right. And so this is a policy that's, I take it the template for this is the Indiana Election Commission?
Yes.
All right. And we put in some information regarding what our fees were going to be?
Yes.
So what, if I have a request and I want information on every precinct in this county, what's it going to cost?
It would be $119, and if they want copies, then you would apply the copy fees as well.
Okay, and I see some information here regarding schedule of fees. Why can't they bring their own media in?
Well, they can, except we will have to have it tested by IT. It must be, and that's in here as well. Any removable media must be tested and approved by the Department of Information Technology.
Why would they need to test it?
It could
Could be contaminated?
yes, it
maybe?
could contaminate our whole network,
Or you
so.
could download some type of virus or something else? And so I take it as a matter of practicality, we'll be strongly recommending that the county provides the media, is that correct?
If they do, then they will have to pay for that at charge, and I think,
We're talking about a thumb drive or something, aren't we?
yes, but if we provide the media, it'll be $1 per precinct plus the actual cost of the media, of what we paid for it.
And thumb drives cost what, $5?
It depends.
It depends on how big you really want it to be. I'd have to take a look at what the entire amount of information would be, and based off of that, but it wouldn't be more than a couple dollars.
And
All
then,
right, and from a practicality point of view, wouldn't it be strongly advisable that we provide the media so that IT doesn't have to go through the process?
I think in practicality view, it would make sense if we just purchased a standard size, a few of them maybe in bulk, and just had them on hand and replenished it as needed instead of trying to jump through all these hoops.
Well, and I'm going to show, as I say, I'm going to confess ignorance, not just demonstrate it. But you said that somebody potentially could contaminate our system. Why would we assume that risk under any circumstances where somebody can take something and put it into our system? I think that would, I don't see any reason at all to have that risk. So
I would
Why is that
agree
in
with
there? I mean,
eliminate risk where possible.
does the state allow that?
they don't mention that at all, anything about me.
you know,
Would we want to amend the policy that's been generated, drafted, if you would, for our consideration to indicate that the county supplies the media at county cost?
I mean, the short answer is yes, but I don't.
Well, then what I would propose is just, instead of saying it must be tested, that it must be provided by us, and we will not accept anybody else's media.
Let's hear from Doug Masson a little bit. Doug, you helped with this policy, is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, my recommendation, if you want to eliminate that option, is just strike the second line in the schedule of fees, strike the via removable media, asterisk, e.g. USB flash drive, CDs, etc., and then strike the part where the asterisk down below says removable media must be tested and approved by do it before it may be inserted into county computers.
All right.
Well, but I would say that to add, though, so that everyone that does this job, it realizes that we will not accept anybody else's media. I think that needs to be stated in here, that we will not accept.
I have this here, I said, Randy, you have different copy. Mine says draft, and so I didn't know if there's any difference in what I've been sent and what,
Is yours saying $1 per precinct?
well, it says draft and yours
Yep.
doesn't, so.
Yep, you've got, it's the right one. All I
I
did was
printed
remove
this this
draft and
morning,
printed it
so-
out.
Okay.
I printed this morning. Any other observations, concerns, questions? I'm moving to approve.
Well, I have one other. As on these things, the cost that whoever comes in to us, this is you, Doug, this is consistent across the board. We're not charging any different cost for Freedom of Information Acts than any other department in the county, or?
Well, there isn't a set fee for this kind of data. The IC 3-7-27-6 says that you should have a uniform, non-discriminatory policy on A, whether you're going to provide it at all, and B, a fee, and it's up to you to set the fee. So I don't know that we have any just pure data fees, although, I don't know. I mean, there's stuff for GIS information, and it varies by the type of data. There's nothing specific to voter data. So I guess just thinking it through, in the Public Records Act, it would be the direct cost of providing the data, which is 105% of labor, the effort to create a system to provide it. Those are the two main, and the removable media.
And the buck covers, that's consistent with what you just said?
Yeah. I mean, I guess I don't have any particular insight into what kind of labor it's going to take you to provide that. I think, I think it's within. It seems within reason. The 3-7-27 doesn't necessarily tie you to that direct cost, but I mean, you should be comfortable in your own mind that it's a reasonable fee for what you provide.
Okay, well, I was asking the question because
Well, and
I don't know, and I'm hoping somebody tells me I'm comfortable now.
I can share with you that other counties have fees as well. They were all over the place. You had some counties charge $10 to $15 per precinct. You had others that charged maybe $50 for the entire county. It was varied. It varied quite a bit.
And how did you come up with the dollar?
Looking at, you look at the $50 charge that I've seen for an entire county, and being that we've not had a policy with an amount, we thought the dollar, which would mean someone would pay $119. Looking at an overall, the entire county, $119, I thought was a doable price.
And that includes the labor that whatever staff we have would do that? Yeah, I mean, the only thing is, I think it has to be consistent with what our cost is, and if there's a thought process that got us there, I'm okay, but that's...
And it was looking at other counties as well.
Other counties have fewer precincts, is that correct?
Many of them, yeah, most of them do.
And so in other counties, it would be fair to state it'd be more than $50, but $10 a precinct in our county would be a little high, it would seem like.
I thought that was way too high.
All right. And so it's some, I'll say middle territory, not necessarily knowing whether it's actually middle or not. All right. Any other questions? I move to approve the policy for access to voter registration data maintained on a computerized system. I move to approve that as drafted, with the exception that language be removed to indicate that we will accept someone else's media. In other words, it's a county-supplied media that the county will be charging at its cost. That is my motion.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion regarding that motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that carries. Doug, you heard our discussion regarding that. Would you care to amend that and shoot it over to Julie for final approval?
Yep.
All right, thank you, I appreciate it. Notice of death of an office holder. And we all read the obit and the sadness. The death of Brian Metzger was reported.
Yeah, it took a while to get this information, but I needed this information in order to then, now I've already sent a letter to the chairman of the Republican Party so that he can do what he needs to do to have a caucus to replace Brian.
I would certainly, number one, I would move that the minutes would reflect our condolences to Brian's family.
Second.
Any discussion regarding that? All in favor?
I do also need to say that we need to remove him from the ballot legally as well.
And that's detail information that we would not need to put in our minutes, I don't think. I think it's important that Cindy and the rest of the family know how well Brian was thought of in our community. Now, as far as notice of death, there's nothing for us to do, is there? He's on the ballot. He comes off the ballot.
Right, and they have time to
Yes.
insert a,
And so the minutes need to reflect that, and I ask that be so noted.
There was already, they've all been filled, so it's not we do not, the party does not have to replace him because there were enough already.
Yeah, technically, there's no vacancy then, is that correct? On the ballot, that is. All right, all right. Election prep update.
Okay, just a long update here. So VSTOP has provided us with a list of random voting system, the serial numbers to test at the public test meeting. And Sean and Kelly have pulled those all to the side. They're probably in our new storage facility. About 3 weeks ago, county chairs received a list of past poll workers and recent volunteers. We're awaiting for their approval so we can begin contacting workers and assigning positions. We've reached out to several proposed voting sites to work out hours and dates. We're still working on that. We've restored Jenks Rest as a voting site after the mayor stated that they will not tear it down until after the November election. We've tweaked some of our reporting forms as well to streamline them, and many of them we're going to print ourselves, so they're not going to go to a copy place, which is going to less time involved doing that. We have more control over it, and it's less expense as well. Ballot preparation is nearly completed. We're just awaiting for the formatting from GBS.
By the way, are we doing that in-house, or is that being done by a contractor?
Actually, creating the ballot, GBS, the contractor, will create the ballot. We then will print it out for all absentees, so that we're doing in-house. We will be the ones, though, that have to proof this, and when we get those, we will be sending them out to many interested parties to help us proof, because it is a very tedious job. We have to have, many areas have a different ballot. We have to make sure that we have every type of ballot and that they're correct. Spellings of names. The staff has worked really hard on trying to correct, we find that a name is misspelled, even with the election division had misspellings of names. We had to get corrected, so it's been tedious.
Any idea how many ballot variations we will have this primary?
I do not know. A lot.
I remember 60 or 70 in the past. Would it surprise you that it'd be approximately that or more?
What's going to make it a longer ballot is there are 2 districts for state delegate convention that will be on there, and those run from, I think, 11 and 12 you get to choose, and we have more than that even running. So some of these ballots will be long.
All right.
And then absentee ballots, well, we're getting ready so that we can hand them out starting March 6th.
Okay. Any questions about any of that? Fair to state we're on track?
Yes.
Thank you. Unfinished new business, any of that?
Well, we talked about delinquent financial reports, and we do have a list, and the staff has contacted them. I've also made some contacts. We do have a list.
Let's see, in the past, I remember that other counties have had what I'll call as a show cause hearing, that they've invited our how many, about 8 or 10 folks that haven't filed their required reporting, that we've, that other counties have ordered these folks to appear in person and be subject to a fine. When's our next meeting? It's late in
Well,
March.
right
is
now,
that
the only
correct?
one we have set is for the actual testing of the equipment, which was like March
24th.
24.
Would it be appropriate that part of the meeting agenda include a show cause for these individuals to appear and
My guess
explain
is-
why they haven't done what the state law requires?
Some of them, my guess is will probably be turning in reports real soon, but
Imagine that.
if there are any left over, I would ask that maybe we do that.
Do we want to do that in the midst of a public test?
Well, we have to do, I suspected it'd be a public meeting, but no, I take it would be after the public test as part of. I hate to do it before, but, and I hate to do it at the same time, but I hate to have another meeting.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is, yeah, I didn't know the public test, because if there's a glitch or something, we don't know how long it's going to last, but, you know, we can work around that, I guess.
Unfortunately, the folks, if they don't have their reports in, would just have to wait until we're done with the public test.
Okay. This, you know, give time for the public test to be done before.
Oh, certainly, I think that's the priority. We would want to get our public test done, and then the scofflaws that haven't turned in their reports for whatever reason can explain why they haven't.
I know some of those people, and I'm not going to endorse your labeling them as scofflaw.
And hopefully they would, understood. And so those individuals who have been remiss in filing their reports can do so beforehand, otherwise they can appear. Are we going to give them a written notice?
I think they ought to get something from us to,
They have gotten phone calls, they've emailed them, I think they even mailed them.
All right, so would it be agreed that the board will give them an additional written notice that they're to appear on, what is it, March 24th? For purposes of explaining why they have not filed their required candidate reports?
I know that meeting starts at 10.
26.
Was it 26?
26 at 10 a.m.
Okay, I'm sorry. Maybe we have them come at 11 or something.
And then just make it clear that after we're done with conducting our public test, that then we would reconvene for purposes of considering what should be done about the folks who've been remiss in filing their required reports. Is that agreed?
Yeah, that's agreed. I think, you know, this is sort of a step up from before. I think we just let the staff handle it, and maybe we need to have some idea of what we think is appropriate and going in. So
Some of them on there, it's just, no one has told them ever before. This is the first, some of them will tell you, we never knew we had to fill out a CFA 1 and then fill out a CFA 4. So this is also a learning opportunity for them. We've tried to tell them last year as well, but some of them still haven't done it.
But you've just indicated the staff has told them.
Yeah,
Right. And have we put it in writing to them?
Yes. Yes, email, phone calls, letters.
And that, Kelly, that's documented in our, in whatever their,
what did Porter County do?
Porter County, they just had an article on theirs, but they fine them. There was a fine, I believe the fine is $50 a day, up to $1,000 for every day it's late.
I mean, yeah.
When it comes
we
to,
can consider that. I don't know that we start the clock running on anyone until after they've shown up and we've given them a few extra days to do what they need to do. And then if they don't, then I would suspect I would support that. But at this point in time, I'm not supporting imposing fines. I mean, particularly it's an educational process for a lot of candidates. They haven't run before. They may not know, but we just have to make sure that they know and that they comply.
Will this letter or documentation be composed by the staff, or what should we expect?
I would suggest, my first thought is to have Let's have the board generate that. Since it's the first time, there's nothing in the file, would be my guess, to set some guidance as to what should be done. Let the board generate that, and I'll take the lead on that. Anything else for unfinished new business?
The only thing, I need your signatures. I did not have, we needed to sign that poll worker contract oath so that we can put those, print those out and have those ready for poll workers.
And we've seen the same form
That's, yes.
in the past. Any other business?
Public?
And we're going to recess into an executive session, is that correct?
Yeah. Do we want the public to speak to us?
Any public comment on the issues on the agenda? Joanne? And again, for the record, Joanne Evers speaking. Thank you.
I'm Joanne Evers, and I'm at 2971 Soldiers Home Road in West Lafayette. I just have one question for the board. I understand we're still preparing for the vote centers, early voting sites, times, dates, all that stuff, I know. But do we still need to approve that list once that's all together?
I'll respond on behalf of the board. The list has been submitted, and it's already in our minutes. And so the minutes also provide that the list can expand or contract. So my answer would be no. We've already done that.
We still need to approve the times and the days and all of that. That's an amendment that actually gets attached to the vote center plan that's online with Indiana Election Division.
But I don't expect the board to have a meeting to do that.
That was my question. When would you do
Why would we need
that?
a meeting for that? I mean, we agreed to do what we've done in the past.
Well, because there's no times. Remember, what we did last meeting was really what the county commissioners used to do.
Right.
And so we now have a two-step process where you look at the vote centers, say, okay, these are agreed upon. Then we have the process you are used to is when you agree on not only the vote centers, but also the times, the dates, and of course, in the process of actually calling, we might find out that a vote center, and we have to replace a vote center because something might not work. A schedule might not work out. So I think that's where the confusion with vote centers is that last meeting was what the commissioners used to do, but the law changed to say that the board is supposed to do that, and so they did that. And now we still have to where we need to do what's going to be called an amendment to the vote center plan.
Not dealing with the plan, just not dealing with the plan. As I understand, we approved our vote centers, plus or minus. That's in our minutes today. Okay, the plan is a different creature, is it not?
The plan has vote centers in it, and every election, we have to put an amendment to it.
And the amendment would only be for the actual vote centers, is that correct?
Actual vote centers, times, and
All right.
dates, all
Can we
that.
do that on the March 26th?
We can. It's a little later than I would like, but if,
No,
yeah,
I mean,
because I would
if we
want to
need
get it
do
out to-
earlier,
Well, hopefully, so are we suggesting another meeting to deal with that?
yes.
Okay. And I'm going to suggest we do it the 26th.
Well, I mean, if, let's do it when we need to get it done. I mean,
Let me state this. I do, in the future, I would like to say, the process that we did with vote centers, where the commissioners used to do it, and we did it, I'm hoping in the future that we actually put it back to the commissioners, because this has caused a lot of confusion, and it's extra time, but the commissioners actually are better equipped to do it than we are, because they know where there's construction. They have more knowledge than the board ever will when it comes to vote center areas. And for example, I found out about the Wabash Fire Station, the construction on that road where it shuts off the whole south end of that road where no one can pass. I found that out through a commissioner. And I'm going to highly suggest that we change even though the law says it comes through the board, that we return it back to the commissioners. That way, this board is only approving it one time.
Well,
And it doesn't confuse everyone as well.
I think the statute says that the board has to do it. I don't think we can necessarily delegate it, and it's done unanimously. And and I don't want to give up unanimous approval of the board on where the vote centers are located.
I will make one observation here, and sorry to keep you hanging here, Joanne, that in the past, we may have made recommendations to the commissioners, but the vote centers were always as we proposed. And so it seems to be not to be a difference. It's a form over substance issue as to whether we approve it or the commissioners approve it. So I don't know that they ever changed any of that.
Well,
Now,
then, I'll tell you what did change. When I came in, last year was the first time that we put amendments to the vote center plan, which we should have been doing in the past. So maybe that's the extra process. And I'm new to this. And so that was a new procedure then, or process for you guys as well.
See, I just remember having considered that numerous times and generating that list. But it would appear that that amendment or to the plan needs to include times and places.
Yes.
All right. And I know we talked about doing what we've done before, no less than we've done before. And that's why I said what I said as to I thought we'd already covered this ground.
It's just the details. The details are what you're wanting.
Well, I would, excuse me, I would think that you'd want at least the public to know where the vote centers are
And
while
those
you're
will be
working on this.
published. They will be published. I mean, we
Well,
want to
yes,
get that
after the
out.
fact, yes, yes.
The vote centers is the easy part, Joanne. I think the hard part is to figuring out, what hours we spend at Jeff High School or what hours we're open. Well, the statute says when we're open on weekends and that type of thing. And so I understand and I get all that. I just had a conclusion that we were going to do no less than we did in 2016. And I know that's a lot of hours. I think you'd actually counted up the number of hours that we're open. So give us a moment. Stand down if you want.
Oh, I never stand down.
So, I mean, we have our last minutes have the list of vote centers and satellites.
Yes, but we don't have this, like,
We
we're
don't have the
still,
times, but
yes.
do you have a problem with?
Well, I guess in the past, when the board has approved things, as Julie explained, the times and dates and locations were all together in one package, and that's what the board approved, not just a possible listing of early vote and election and vote centers. So I just assumed that we would have to approve this again, which included the dates and times and of each early vote center as well as the vote centers on Election Day.
And I would have loved to provide that today, but for example, the high schools have not stated yet if the dates will work for them.
Yeah, I understand that it's a very long process and can be very complicated. I'm asking the board when you would approve it, because your meeting did not appear to say we will approve the vote centers at this point in time, because March 26th already is pretty busy with the testing and also now the finance reports that you need to deal with. So I just was trying to figure out where that was going to fit in.
I don't know whether we can get a meeting. I know what my schedule is for the next 3 weeks. So.
Yeah, I'm gone next week, but I'm around that I can work. But, as soon as we have it.
I think in one more week, Purdue, we just found out when Croc would be available, so we're getting there.
All right, so it would be expected there would be a future meeting to deal with the specific times to supplement the addendum to the vote center plan.
That's what I wanted to know. Yes, thank you.
Any other comments?
Zachary Bale, 124 Connolly Street. Thank you as always. Just a couple questions and comments. It appears that we don't ever have any supplemental data here at the meetings for the public, and I was just looking on the website as well, and I couldn't find the minutes from the last meeting associated with this. I couldn't find the policy proposal that was today for the voter registration information that was proposed and passed, nor was there any copy here at the table for the public to examine and perhaps talk and even lobby before the meeting started regarding that policy that everyone just voted on. It seems that the election board has some difficulty with trying to achieve good governance and having that information available for the public so they can actually understand the how and the why certain things are happening in their community for that. So it would be greatly appreciated if there could be, at a minimum, copies of all the agenda items, everything that the board has. That's usually pretty standard procedure for other governmental and public bodies across the nation, dare I say the world, and digital would be great too. That way people can share those links and have those disseminated out in the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Move to adjourn. Oh, Heather?
I have a question about the electronic data policy you just passed, and I know that you touched on that the parties would get it. And believe me, I've been in the job, I know you're busy, but there is a requirement, it's in the plan, that that data is released every, I think, 2 or 4 hours on election day? Because you have to remember, it's replacing a poll book. So that data, it's probably the state party, I think, that probably requested it, because then they download it. That was the contingency, and I think it's in statute for electronic poll books, that information would then be available to parties or candidates or whatever it is, just like a poll book would be. Like, remember how we used to do the poll book?
Oh, no,
Yeah, so I'm not complaining, I'm just saying as you move forward to election day, think about that.
There's some consideration that, am I correct in believing that as generated by the state, there would be a software development to permit access to do this?
Yeah, and I think in the old plan, it was like we had to put it in, and you might check on that. I don't know when we were, because that was a big, obviously, concern of people when we were selling the whole thing, is like, it was always, we did it this way, how are we going to be able to do it somewhat this way again? So just something to look into as you're moving forward.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else?
Hi, Mel Groover, 502 Perrin Avenue, also Purdue Votes Coalition. And so I guess I have 2 questions. One is, you had mentioned on the digital information access, what the things that you're redacting, and I was just wondering why were phone numbers being redacted?
It's also what the Indiana Election Division, if you go into Indiana Code, that is what they redacted, and so it was proposed here that we do the same. Is there anything you would add to that, Doug?
I mean, it just says that the statute directs the election division of the state to redact certain information to individuals who request it in this fashion. And it also says that the state owns that data. So we just adopted the list that they're required to redact.
Okay.
And it was, so it wasn't, there wasn't a thoughtful process. It was just looking at the statute and saying, here's the things they list.
Okay.
We shouldn't be giving that out.
Yeah, thank you. And then just for my plan, I did get the email today asking me this morning when Croc would be available, and I responded to that on a tentative. I've made a reservation. What's the timeline that you all are hoping to confirm that those dates work? So on my end, when I make the reservation, I need to make sure I'm telling them, like, yes, that is when we need Croc. Am I good to go forward with that? So I guess I'm piggybacking off of Joanne's question.
Is it fair to believe that whatever their availability is, we will work with? In other words,
We proposed 2 dates to them a couple weeks ago, and
No,
one of
I
them...
received my first email regarding this morning. But I did move fast on it and get those reservations put in. So
Yesterday, I found out that they had the 16th open, but they had something that was already available.
yeah, so April 16th, so the email that I got today asked me to look into April 16th and April 23rd. I looked into both. April 16th, we have a blood drive that day, so we're going to do April 23rd. And then I have the union reserved for the 4th, 5th, and 6th of
for purposes of
May.
addressing the question, is I would not expect to be considering individual times at this meeting when we're going to have a further meeting to determine what individual times they have. Am I missing something?
Well, I
here?
think she wants to know if it's a partial day. This will be a full day.
Okay, yes,
I
this
think
is
it's
helpful.
needed at Purdue would be
Okay.
beneficial. That's our plan, is to actually have have it open the entire day.
Oh, okay. Well, but that's still early voting, right? Mm-hmm. And so aren't we going to look at that at another time? At a regular meeting?
Yes, but she, you know what, she's acting right now as, she's the liaison, and so we need to speak with her to get these final, it should probably do this outside this meeting.
Well, that's kind of what my point is.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Isn't this committee business?
Yeah, sure. And I guess I just want to say for the record that if you're corresponding with anyone else at Purdue for reservations, you're corresponding with the wrong person. And I am going to keep coming to this podium and saying it until I'm the one that's getting those dates. Apparently 2 weeks ago, you emailed someone, not me. So, yeah, so that's what I...
Understood, Mel. Thank you. Anyone else?
One more question. Sorry.
It's a one-pass system, Heather, but okay.
I wasn't at the last meeting, but I was under the understanding that whatever you guys talked about last time was a working list.
That's what I thought too, but okay.
Okay. Okay, I just
I don't
didn't
know why
know.
we're doing it again. That's kind of
Well,
the disappointment that I have. It's probably fairly
All right.
obvious. But all right. Thank you.
Question. Susan Schechter, 1001 Ferris Street. I've had a number of people engage me in conversation about the testing the vote machines, which apparently is going to happen on the 26th of March. And in that process, so I can explain when people ask, you will have some machines here and people will cast ballots and then you will count the votes cast. Is that what will happen?
Well, these are DRE machines, so it automatically will run a test to vote. First of all, it will try to make sure that every ballot style works. And then what we'll probably do again this year, like we did last year, because it worked real well, is that we will let people that want to actually vote on it, and then we will tabulate to show that what they voted for is it's all added correctly.
So I think the answer to your question is yes.
Okay, and then, so the machines, because this is where people, I certainly, and people I talk with, are uneasy, is that it's a black box. And so when we come and see this demonstration, we say, okay, we know if we see these things go in and we see that thing come out, that it is operating in a way that we would expect it to operate. So then my understanding is what would be a further reassurance is to see the procedures with respect to protecting the integrity of that black box between when we see the demonstration and throughout the voting process.
Come see us on the 26th. Thank you.
I'll be here. Thank you.
Anyone else? Move to, I don't know if we're technically adjourning this meeting and then recessing into the executive committee. My instincts tell me this meeting's over. I move to adjourn.
Second.
Any discussion? Meeting's adjourned. Okay. Let's go into our exec session. Thank you all.